Hey, Chandler here, CEO and founder of Self-Publishing School. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how to sell more books. So more specifically, the 9 best ways that I've found to sell more books long term. So the first thing I want to talk about is the difference between what I call the Toyota Camry book launch and the sports car book launch. Now, if you know anything about sports cars, you know that they're fast, they're loud, and they use up a lot of fuel, right? So if you've seen it's shoo, right? Sports car flies by, it makes a lot of noise, it uses a lot of fuel, it's fun, but it's also, you're out of gas, right? Now the sports car launch is the approach that most people take. They make a lot of noise, they use a lot of fuel, aka energy, time and energy, they focus everything into a singular week, and at the end of that week, they're spent. And their results kind of flash by, and then their book never sells again. Which is a common myth around books, is that books don't sell after the launch. Well, they don't sell after the launch if you don't do it well. So what I recommend is that you follow what I would call the Toyota Camry book launch. Okay, so the Toyota Camry book launch, if you know anything about Toyota Camry, I had 2 of these growing up. Both of them had over 200,000 miles on them. So those things just go. Right? They keep going and they keep going and they keep going. So what I really want to focus on is what I would call the fundamentals of a bestseller, right? So we want to make sure that your book is fundamentally sound from the start so that your launch and your book sales are more like a Toyota Camry and they keep on going. So that month after month, year after year, year from now, 2 years from now, you're still selling copies of that book. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So there's obviously a lot of things that I could talk about. I've kind of narrowed this down into the 9 most important fundamentals, if you will. And then we've got some extra training that I'm going to tell you about at the end of this video that'll go more in depth on these things. But these are definitely the 9 most important things you can make sure that you get right first so that you sell more books long term. So number 1, you need to have an intriguing and a good title and subtitle. So sometimes people come to us at Self-Publishing School and they want to relaunch their book. And one of the biggest things that we see that's broken is their title, their subtitle, and their cover. Now I'll get into the cover in just a little bit, but your title needs to have a couple important things. It needs to be specific, and this is a real big one that people mess up, is they have this big broad title. It's like how to achieve your goals, live your dream life, and find your purpose, right? And I hear that title and I say, I don't know. How is that book going to help me? Is it for me? So your title needs to be specific. Your subtitle needs to be even more specific. Now we always say if your title and subtitle doesn't make you want to poop your pants because it's so specific and so bold, then it's probably not specific or bold enough. So your title needs to touch on the pain and it needs to touch on the benefit. So what's the pain that you're solving and what's the benefit that people are going to get from your book? And then most importantly, and this is the combo of your title and your cover, is your target reader needs to instantly understand what your book's about. Because if I don't instantly understand what your book's about, I don't know if it's for me and I don't know if I should buy it. And maybe you've heard this saying, confused people don't buy. So we don't want to confuse them. We want to tell them succinctly exactly what the book's about. So number 2, spoiler alert, I already talked about this. You need to have a great cover. So your cover needs to do 3 things. Number 1, it needs to grab attention. So if you look at the cover for my book Published, you see there's red, there's contrast, it grabs attention, right? Number 2, your title needs to be easy to read. So if you look at this cover, the upper third is where the title is, and the title is easy to read. So your title needs to be in the upper third. There's a big difference between a good looking cover and a good selling cover. A lot of designers will give you a good looking cover that doesn't sell well. Okay, and then number 3, and probably the most important thing, again, on the cover, is that your target reader needs to instantly understand what your book's about. So your title, your subtitle, your cover all work together to communicate that. Number 3, you need to have a killer book description. So whether people are reading this on the back of your book or whether people are reading this on your Amazon listing, it's super important that you have a book description that creates intrigue, that draws people into the book. So if you're writing fiction, it's creating mystery, it's opening up loops, there's a plot line that's kind of being exposed there. What's going to happen? If you're writing nonfiction, you're touching on specific pain points that person has, and then you're kind of leading them down what Joe Sugarman would call the slippery slope. Right? So they continue reading, they continue wanting to learn more, but you need to have a good book description that draws intrigue, but you need to have a good book description that creates intrigue and makes people want to buy your book. Number 4, make sure that you pick the right keywords and the right categories for your book. So I've got a separate video on how to self-publish a book on Amazon. This goes really in depth on a lot of the things I'm talking about here, but more specifically keywords and categories. And then we also have some other training and blog posts on how to pick good keywords and how to pick good categories. It's important that you don't mess this up. Amazon gives you 7 keywords and 2 categories, and then you have the ability to unlock 8 more if you kind of follow this not so well-known method that you can use. And again, we've got a blog post on how to get more categories. So select good keywords, select good categories. Number 5, get as many reviews on your book as possible. So in terms of your book being a perennial seller, your book's not gonna sell a lot long-term if you don't have reviews. So the benchmark for me is I wanna make sure that you've got at least 20 reviews on your book. And then if you're there, preferably we get to the next checkpoint, which is at least 100 reviews on your book. So not only is it important that you get reviews when you launch, but that you have a strong launch when you launch, because now all of a sudden Amazon is gonna start promoting your book and there's momentum and the Amazon algorithms are happy. They're sending people to your book. It's in the customers also bought. All those things kind of snowball based on reviews and based on the strength of your launch. Number 6, it's important that you have a good book that solves a serious problem in the marketplace. So this is really a timeless book that's well written and well edited, which I know that's like a bunch of different things in one, but if your book is not timeless, then it's not gonna sell well a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. And if your book doesn't solve a real need in the marketplace, then it's not gonna have longevity, right? You're not making a book that can be referred. If someone says, hey, what's a great book that you've read recently? I mean, that's the main way that I buy books. That's the main way a lot of people buy books is by word of mouth. So you need a good, timeless, well-written book that's also well edited. Number 7, pricing your book to sell well. So this is not an exact science, but there's kind of general pricing guidelines, which is if you're doing a Kindle book, it's from $2.99 to $9.99. If you're doing a print book, it's from $10.99 to $17.99. So you want to price your book in a way that's going to sell well, and either it stands out within your genre or that it's priced similarly to the other books in your genre. So you want to be intentional about that, and you also want to test it. I mean, that's the cool thing about self-publishing is that you can adjust your price and see at what price point does your book sell better. Number 8, run book promotions every 3 to 6 months, and then also run ads. So this is kind of a 2-part tip. But number 1, there's certain promotions that you can run, and there's book promotion sites, which I talk about in my video on how to launch a book. But there's some really great book promotion sites that you can use, and there's promotions within the Amazon platform that you can run every 3 to 6 months. So definitely do that, and that's gonna help kind of refresh and send a new surge. It sends your book up in the rankings. Now all of a sudden Amazon's recommending your book, things like that. So make sure that that's kind of the pruning and the maintenance that keeps your book going up in the charts and keeps your book selling. And then the second part of that is running AMS or Amazon ads, or running BookBub ads. These are 2 really great things that we've done at Self-Publishing School and that our students have done. And we're just finding a lot of really great success with those things to help drive more sales for your book. Number 9, and the last step, is to create a portfolio or a library. So one of the best ways to sell books long-term is to have multiple books. So if you're writing fiction, it's a series, because now, when you sell one book, then they might buy the second book and the third book. And so you've turned one book purchase into 3 or into 5 book purchases. And then if you're writing nonfiction, also you can write multiple books for the same target audience. But now you're able to cross-sell all those things. So this helps you kind of as a portfolio, as maybe you're an aspiring full-time author, you've got more books that are gonna sell, and you're kind of creating this whole ecosystem. So there you have it. Those are the 9 ways to sell more books. So I hope you found this helpful. And we've got 2 additional resources that are gonna help you in your journey, and really they're gonna help you sell more books. So number 1, we've got an accompanying blog post that goes into more detail on all the things that I covered in this video. And then number 2, and probably most importantly or most helpful for you, is I've got this training that's gonna walk you through how to sell more books. So this is about a 45-minute to an hour-long training that's gonna walk you through, again, more of the fundamentals of the bestseller. It's gonna talk about Toyota Camry versus a sports car launch, and really it's gonna talk to you about how to sell more books. So how to reach your first 4 figures per month in earnings as an author, and then how do you build from that if you're someone who wants to make this a full-time living. So click the link along with this video, check out that post, or definitely check out that training. This is gonna be able to go more in depth on the stuff that I talked to you about in this video. So definitely comment below this video. Let me know what you thought. What was your favorite tip of the 9 tips? Which one did you like the most on how to sell more books? Or what's one thing that you've done that you've found success with? Let's kind of share best practices. I think in the comments we can get some really good stuff going here. So comment below, and then lastly, click the subscribe button. So we've got a lot of really great content coming out here on this channel. You need to subscribe, make sure that you don't miss it. Seriously, right now, click the subscribe button, comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.